If you constantly feel broken and think you need to be fixed, hear the story of a young woman who spent years trying to repair what was never truly broken. In a quiet coastal town lived Maya, a painter whose colors faded with every doubt she carried. Maya's mornings began the same way. The first light would seep softly through the worn curtains of her small studio apartment, spilling onto the scattered canvases that crowded the wooden floor. The salty sea breeze carried the distant hum of fishing boats returning with their day's catch, mingling with the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. She sat by the window, her fingers wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug, staring at the blank canvas before her. There was beauty in this routine, the quiet moments when sunlight kissed paint and brush, when the world felt still and forgiving. Maya was known in the town for her gentle spirit and the warmth she radiated even on the coldest days. Her paintings, once vibrant and daring, had drawn admiration from neighbors and visitors alike. Children would press their faces against her shop window, mesmerized by the explosions of color that seemed to dance on her canvases. Yet beneath this calm, a storm churned. Maya's smiles were often shadowed by an unspoken truth, a relentless voice inside her head whispering that she was not enough, that her colors were stained by flaws needing urgent repair. Her best friend, Lena, would often tease her during their late-night conversations. "Maya, your art is alive. You breathe soul into every stroke. Why do you look at your paintings like they're broken?" But Maya barely smiled. "Because they are," she would say softly, eyes distant. "I'm broken too. Maybe fixing the art means fixing me." Each day, she tried to paint through the haze of doubt, but the result always felt lacking, incomplete. The vibrant blues seemed dull, the radiant reds muted. Sometimes, when no one was watching, she tore her canvases apart, frustrated and weary from chasing perfection that slipped further away with each attempt. Her family noticed too. Her mother, a woman of few words, came one afternoon, her face creased with concern. "Maya, you've stopped laughing like you used to. What's filling your heart with such heaviness?" Maya forced a smile, but it was brittle as cracked glass. "I'm just tired, Mama. Tired of not feeling right." One evening, after another day lost to self-criticism, Maya wandered down to the shoreline, the cold sand pressing against her bare feet. The sky was a thick canvas of gray clouds, mirroring the turmoil inside her. Waves pulled and pushed rhythmically, indifferent to the struggles of a single soul. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering not from the cold but from the ache of an invisible weight trapped in her chest. "I'm broken," she whispered to the wind, "and no matter how hard I try, I can't fix this." Days passed in a blur of restless nights and unfinished paintings. Maya became a ghost of her former self, caught between craving change and fearing she was unworthy of it. The neighbors began to murmur, some concerned, others dismissive. "There she goes again, painting shadows where there should be light," one old man commented outside the bakery. "It's not just the art anymore. She's withered away," said a woman on the corner, shaking her head. Inside, Maya heard the whispers but felt unable to answer. She avoided friends, stopped visiting her mother's house, and even locked the studio door from the inside most days. The vibrant color she once summoned so easily had run dry, replaced by a gray fog of self-doubt. One afternoon, Lena knocked persistently on Maya's door, her voice gentle but firm. "Maya, I know you're hurting, but hiding won't heal this." Standing on the doorstep with rain beginning to patter softly above them, Lena's eyes searched Maya's face. "Tell me, why do you think you need fixing?" Maya's breath hitched. The question trembled between them, unspoken truth laid bare. "Because I see my flaws everywhere. In the canvas, in the mirror. I've spent years trying to erase them to become someone better, whole. But the harder I try, the more broken I feel." Lena reached out, squeezing her hand. "What if you're not meant to be fixed? What if you're already enough?" The words felt like a crack in the night, fragile but promising. Later that week, news arrived at the town's small cafe about a visitor coming to the coast. An old craftsman renowned for his ability to see beauty in imperfection, they said. Someone who worked not to change stone, but to honor the cracks that gave it character. Curiosity stirred something long dormant inside Maya. On a hesitant morning painted with a pale sun, she wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and followed the winding path down the cliffside toward the craftsman's workshop. The air smelled of cedar and earth as she approached a modest wooden hut nestled between ancient olive trees. Smoke curled lazily from its chimney, and wildflowers bowed gently in the morning breeze. At the doorway stood an elderly man with a beard as white as sea foam, eyes sharp yet kind, as if seeing beyond the surface of things. He turned slowly, the worn leather apron catching the light, and smiled. "You must be Maya," he said, voice deep and calm. "I hear you carry a heavy heart." Maya blinked, surprised. "Yes, I suppose I do." The man motioned her inside. The walls were lined with stones, some smooth and polished, others jagged and chipped. Each one seemed to tell a story of resilience and endurance. "Why do you hide your flaws as if they are shame?" he asked, settling into a wooden chair opposite her. Maya swallowed. "Because they make me feel less whole. I don't want to be broken." He nodded slowly, eyes reflecting a wisdom born from years of patient reflection. What if the cracks were not signs of weakness but of life? What if trying to fix what feels broken blinds you to what you truly are? For the first time in a long while, Maya felt a flicker of hope, a whisper of possibility. The craftsman's words settled gently in the stillness, like seeds planted in fertile soil. He studied her closely. "Tell me, Maya, what have you been trying to fix?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Everything, myself, my art, my mistakes." He leaned forward. "And in doing so, have you noticed what you might be losing?" Maya thought of the colors drained from her paintings, the laughter stolen from her days. "I don't know anymore." A soft chuckle escaped the old man. "That is why you are here, isn't it? To see what lies beneath the need to fix." The room seemed to breathe with an ancient rhythm, the scent of cedar mingling with the soft light filtering through dusty windows. He rose and moved to a shelf, retrieving a small, weathered stone with a jagged crack across its face. Holding it out to Maya, he said, "Look closely at this stone. The crack does not diminish its beauty, it is its story, and that story is yours." Maya touched the stone gently, feeling its rough edges and smooth surfaces. A quiet ache settled deep inside, a mix of fear and longing. The craftsman sat back down and looked at her with gentle firmness. "Before we begin, I want you to ask yourself one question. Why do you keep trying to fix what might already be enough?" Maya met his gaze, a spark flickering in her eyes. "I don't know if I can stop." He smiled, not unkindly. "Then let us start with that." The old man's voice softened. "I will show you something far beyond what you imagine. But first you must be ready to see." He took a deep breath and began, "Once a stone like this." And as the story unfolded, Maya felt the tightness in her chest loosen ever so slightly, as though a new path was beginning to take shape before her very eyes. The old man's gaze softened as he began, his voice steady and inviting. "Once upon a time, in a forest thick with ancient trees, there lived a river unlike any other. It was not a great river, wide or deep, but a small stream that flowed gently over stones and roots. This river loved to run, to sing its watery song as it wandered through the woods. But as the years passed, the river began to notice something. It was full of cracks and rough edges. Sometimes it stumbled over boulders or slipped into narrow crevices, and the water splashed and spilled irregularly. The river felt imperfect, broken by its surroundings, and wished it could smooth itself out to flow perfectly, like the grand rivers it had heard about in stories. One day, the river came upon a wise old willow tree that leaned over its banks. The tree's leaves whispered with the wind as it spoke. "Why do you fret about being broken or cracked, dear river? Your bends and splashes are the marks of your journey. Your cracks make you unique, carving a path where none else flows." The river was puzzled. "But I want to be smooth, even like a mirror reflecting the sky, not rough and scattered." The willow smiled gently. "Look beneath your surface. In every crack, water pools and nurtures the roots of the smallest plants. You may stumble, but in your imperfection, you give life. Imagine if you tried to be anything else. Would the forest be the same? Your rough edges shape who you are, and in that, you are enough. The river paused, feeling the weight of the willow's words ripple through its waters. It realized that the rough stones and cracks were not flaws to be fixed, but the very elements that made its song unique and its journey meaningful. The river began to flow again, freer and more alive than ever, embracing every twist and splash as part of its true nature. The old man's voice grew softer. Do you see, Maya? Like the river, you have been trying to smooth away every crack, every imperfection. But those are the places where your true beauty and strength lie. When you try to fix what isn't broken, you lose the very essence that makes you, you. Maya's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as the meaning settled, a fragile but glowing warmth filling the hollow places inside her. I understand, she whispered. I don't have to erase my cracks, I can flow with them and let them give shape to my life and my art. The craftsman nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. Exactly. Healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about embracing your story with all its cracks and colors. That morning, as Maya stepped back onto the coastal path, the weight she carried felt lighter. She cradled the weathered stone the craftsman had given her in her palm, a token of the lesson she was beginning to learn. The next day, Maya returned to her studio, the dawn light washing over her canvases like a gentle promise. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up a brush she hadn't touched in weeks. For the first time in a long while, she hesitated, not because of fear but because of possibility. She decided to paint not what she thought she should, but what was true to her, cracks and all. The first strokes were hesitant, uneven, sometimes clumsy. The fiery reds bled imperfectly into the blues, splattered with unexpected textures. Maya's heart raced. Part of her wanted to abandon the chaos and find perfect again. But she remembered the river, the willow, the craftsman, the gentle invitation to accept rather than erase. Day by day, Maya painted, allowing the colors to speak without judgment. Slowly, the vibrant blues returned, alive with depth. The reds burst with honest emotion. Her paintings no longer tried to hide flaws but welcomed them, embracing jagged edges and raw textures as part of their soul. Yet the shadows of doubt still crept in. Some days her brush hesitated, the old voice whispered, "This isn't good enough." On those days, Maya would set the brush down and stare long into the horizon, listening to the waves, feeling the pull of the sea's own imperfect flow. One morning, about a month after her first brushstroke back, Lena came to visit. She stepped into the studio, eyes wide with surprise and wonder. "Maya, it's like your paintings breathe again. They aren't afraid to be alive. You look different too. Like you found a light inside." Maya smiled, a genuine, unfolding smile. "I'm learning that I don't have to be anyone else's idea of whole or perfect. I'm enough with my cracks, with my messy colors. I'm enough as I am." The transformation was gradual and often fragile. Maya faced sleepless nights, wrestling with old patterns and harsh critiques that echoed too loudly in her mind. There were moments when the urge to fix, to erase, to start over, overwhelmed her. It was during one of those moments, a chilly evening wrapped in fog, that Maya received an unexpected invitation, a local art show, seeking authentic stories and works that touched hearts. Fear gripped her. Could she share her imperfect art with the world? Would they see the cracks or the beauty? She almost declined. But then she thought of the river and the willow, of the craftsman's stone resting in her pocket, and she made a choice. The night of the show arrived. The small gallery was filled with gentle hums of conversation, the scent of paint and old wood thick in the air. As Maya's paintings found their space on the walls, something unexpected happened. The crowd was drawn in. Whispers of awe, tears, smiles. People saw rawness, truth, and beauty where Maya had only seen flaws. A young girl tugged her mother's hand to look closer, pointing at a canvas where reds clashed wildly with blues. "Mom, it looks like a storm and a sunrise at the same time." An elderly man paused, voice choked. "These aren't just paintings. They're hope made visible." For the first time, Maya did not shy away from her reflections in the mirror or her art's imperfect strokes. She realized she had stopped trying to cover her cracks, and in doing so, she had allowed her true self to glow. Months later, Maya's story became an inspiration in her town. Visitors asked about her art, about the courage behind it. She would smile quietly and say, "I stopped trying to fix myself because I finally saw that I was already enough." On a chill spring morning, she returned to the craftsman's workshop to thank him. The old man, still sturdy beneath his years, listened as Maya spoke. "Thank you for reminding me that my cracks are my story," he nodded. "Never forget, Maya. The world needs your light, shadows, and all." And with that, she stepped back into her life, not as someone broken to be fixed, but as a river flowing freely through every twist and turn she had earned. And so Maya discovered that true healing isn't about patching the cracks. It's about embracing them, letting them shape your journey and your beauty. That day, something changed not only for her, but for the entire town that watched a gray shadow bloom into radiant color once more. Years later, when asked about her secret, Maya would always say, "I don't need fixing. I'm enough, just as I am." This story shows us that we don't need to be perfect to be valuable. It teaches us that the places we often want to hide, the cracks, the scars, the so-called broken parts, are actually the very parts that make us unique and whole. And you? How many times have you looked in the mirror and wished to be someone else? How many moments did you try to erase your flaws, thinking you'd only be loved or accepted after you were fixed? How long have you carried the weight of those whispers telling you you're not enough? As Maya discovered, accepting ourselves isn't about pretending to be flawless. It's about welcoming our imperfections as part of our story. It's not about fixing what isn't broken. It's about embracing who we already are. It's about unfolding the parts we thought were flaws and finding that in them lies our true beauty. You don't have to change everything at once.